I want to close this, right? Close the
Perfect.
transcribe. Okay.
No, you don't want to do transcription.
I don't know how to not do transcription.
Okay, go ahead and stop the recording and then I'll just do the recording.
Oh, can you do it?
Yeah, just go ahead and stop it on your end.
Okay. I'll go ahead and stop. Oh, no, I can stop the trans right here.
Okay, yeah, you got it. Good deal, dude.
All right, I got it.
All right.
All right, I turn it over to you.
I officially call the meeting to order. Do we have any public invited to be heard?
I didn't hear anything from Amy, so I'm gonna assume that we don't.
Okay, no public. We'll move on to number 3 on the agenda to approve the minutes from January 9. Do we have any revisions to those minutes?
I looked at the minutes and didn't see any major problems, so I move we accept the minutes.
Okay, so Robert moves. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Perfect.
All right.
All right. We'll go ahead and move to agenda item 4 to review the 2025 work plan.
Awesome. So let me get it up on the screen, and I want to. So first of all, I just want to apologize. I was telling Crystal that Jeffrey let me know that he hadn't received the agenda and packet, and when I forwarded to him, I noticed how light the number of megabytes the packet was, and so this was not sent out in your packet, and it really should have. So I apologize.
Oh, very tough. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, I'm about to share it. I just wanted to find it first. So I'm going to share this with everyone. All right. Okay. Can everybody on online see it?
Yes.
All right, great. So we are tonight going to, we usually do this in March, but I talked to Christy and Molly and Christina, and I think that we are pretty good to actually finalize this in our February meeting. So I think we're a little bit ahead. So I'm gonna go over the work plan and just share with you some of the items that we're gonna be working on the rest of the year. So of course we've done the new member and election of officers, and we started talking. Tonight we're going to cover the CPG program, and that's going to be Christy. We're going to look at the site visit schedule. I will share it to you. We're going to finalize it. I didn't put there's an HSBC report that I was hoping Amy was going to send in a packet, not for review at a board meeting because it's 70 pages. I didn't, even if I sent it to you last Friday, I would hate to say, let's have a discussion about it right now. I was thinking we could either move it to March meeting or another meeting, maybe our retreat. So that's what we're doing tonight. April, we're going to talk about, actually it's not finished because that should be 2025. 2026, actually. The Human Services Fund, site board retreat stuff, and of course, these are just this. So this is just a work plan. It can change. It's meant to be changed. We're just giving you all kind of a general, this is what we're doing. So yeah, these are the things that, oh, here we go. Give me 1 second.
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so yeah, then in May, we're gonna look at the priorities if needed, and I said that if needed, because we're gonna really, in April, we're gonna really dig into this. So things may change between here and June, depending on what, so that's why I put if needed. We still wanna do a logic model outcome training. We do that every year. I think that's super helpful for new board members. And this year we had asked city manager to come and do a Q&A in June, so I'll remind Harold about that. I still have a question mark for affordable housing training, potentially in July. It's question mark there. Anything else from HCI? Of course, September, October, November, guys, your time is all about review and evaluation.
Yeah, HCI, we're entering our busy time, so our busy time is really the spring. So March will be lot of our time. So thanks in advance for that long agenda. And then April and May are kind of our funding cycle. And so then we pull back a little bit as Alberto's funding process ramps up in the fall. So you'll be seeing us a lot over the next few months for our stuff.
And of course, year round, I do desk audits and I talk to the the board about my site visits and how it goes with the agencies. And we'll talk about the site visits later on. So I guess what I'm asking the board tonight is there anything else you want me to add, or are you all comfortable with this work plan for this year?
We could always add stuff as we go, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
But we could adopt it as is right now with the condition that we may add to it. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Do you want us to
Yeah,
vote to approve it?
yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve the work plan?
Sorry.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Perfect, work plan approved.
All right, yeah, and again, we can always change it.
Yep, we can always add to it as we go. All right, moving on to agenda item number 5, CDBG rehab program changes. I'll turn that over to you.
Yeah, I'll kick it off and then I'll hand it over to Alexis. So we mentioned a few times in the past few meetings that we're kind of in a transition process with our home rehabilitation program. So we're very happy to be here tonight where we can kind of announce changes and what the program's looking like. So we have folks from Brothers Redevelopment, you'll hear from them, but I don't know if you want to do a little intros about Alexis.
Yeah, we can kind of lead into the presentation and then I'll give Brothers an opportunity to speak. But hello, everyone. My name is Alexis McCowan and I'm their Housing and Community Investment Specialist. Very happy to be here and thank you so much for your time. As Christy said, we'll be talking about our rehab changes. Hopefully we'll be your vote to approve those tonight. Next slide, please. So this might sound familiar, the CDBG stuff. We kind of talked about it earlier in January. But again, this is our federal funding that we receive every
Sorry,
year.
can you share the screen? Sorry to interrupt.
I thought I did. I am so sorry.
That's all right. Thank you very much. Sorry.
No, thank you for
Interrupted.
reminding me. I thought it was easy enough to get this there. Give me 1 second. There we go. Can everybody see it?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, my apologies.
So CDBG is our federal funding that we receive from HUD every year. The city of Longmont receives just shy of $500,000 every year. And we utilize that funding primarily for affordable housing in the city of Longmont. It can be used for other things. The main focus is to provide decent housing, eliminate slumber blight, and amplify economic development. So it can be used for all kinds of things, fire truck, libraries, anything under the sun, but the city chooses to use it as affordable housing. So the next slide, we'll talk about our biggest user of our CDBG funding, which is our housing rehabilitation. So our program is developed in order to just improve the stock of homes that already exist within the city. Our funds are only to provide safety, health, code updates, to make homes sanitary and decent for folks to live in. And this is one of my favorite examples. If you look at that top photo, you'll see it's white and gray. That gray is actually worn straight through. This is a roof of a mobile home.
Wow.
And from inside the home, you can see the sunshine coming through those gray parts. And underneath that photo there, you'll see under all those leaves, that is a new roof that we were able to get put in. No gray in sight. That means no sunshine was coming in. And this owner was under our 50% AMI limit. So definitely someone who fits the need of what we're seeing in the community. Next slide, please. So this is our timeline. In August, we decided to make the decision to move away from operating the program in all of Boulder County. The city of Longmont used to administer the rehab program for both cities. And due to just capacity and changing ideals, we decided to only focus on City of Longmont folks. So for making that change, we decided to open up our request for proposals to get a firm in there that's qualified, well-versed in the federal funding sphere, to come and help out with the program. That process closed in November 7th. By December 4th, we had a decision. And just yesterday, believe it or not, we had our contract signed by Brothers Redevelopment, who is here tonight to speak a little bit more about the programs and what they offer to other municipalities around the state. And then, of course, here we are today to hopefully get your all's opinion on our proposed changes and hopefully vote. But with that, I will let Brothers speak and talk a little bit about their program and what they hope to offer the City of Longmont.
Absolutely. I'll get started. My name is Chad Niblink. I'm the Director of Program Operations with Brothers Redevelopment. And with me is Cynthia Velasquez in Program Operations and Jason McCullough, the Director of Home Modification Repair. So a little bit about Brothers Redevelopment, who we are and what we do, just to kind of lay the base, and then Jason will talk about his program and really what we'll be doing with Longmont. Brothers Redevelopment is a nonprofit affordable housing organization. And so we were started 54 years ago with the mission to provide safe, affordable, accessible housing services for older adults living on a fixed income and folks with disabilities. So that's what we do across the board. We are a housing provider. We've got a variety of different housing programs as a part of what we do. We do some rent mortgage utility assistance. We have a housing counseling department. We operate one of the largest volunteer programs in the state. We also have a program called Landlords Opening Doors, which provides placement for HICPUF for folks to come out of a care facility and find an actual good place to reside. We also have a program called Aging in Place, which works with older adults specifically and finds resources and provides a wide variety of support. So we're affordable housing, but we really do a lot of different things in that sector. The cornerstone of Brothers Redevelopment is our home modification repair program. It's the first program of the organization. And if you talk to anybody administrative, any of our staff, everybody will tell you the stories that we get to be a part of in HMR are some of the most life-changing that we get to be a part of. And that's when you see people crawling up their front step to be able to get in the door. And then we were able to build them a wheelchair ramp and have them roll in. And so things like that, we get to experience all the time and do it in a very professional way. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jason McCullough to talk about HMR.
Sure. So, yes, HMR is the oldest department program in Brothers. It's had a few iterations, but it's kind of grown. So it's grown over the years. I've been in the company for this will be my 18th year at Brothers. Same with him, so I'm not telling you what guy here. And when we started, when I started in 2007, we were just doing state Medicaid. We've been a state Medicaid provider since 1981. We were doing like volunteer construction projects still. We called it private pay. We tried to say like, hey, if you can join us as the homeowner, obviously for the folks we were serving that didn't have that often, that was okay. We tried to cover stuff with foundational grid. And then we started with the city of Thornton. They had this program called CDBG. And they said, hey, you're a nonprofit, you work on housing issues. We don't we don't have Parks and Rec staff. We don't have somebody that can like really work and do this. You have a construction crew. Would you be interested in partnering with us? It's gonna take some like admin lift. We're like, well, we've got administration people. So that was our dip the toe in. So that was our first one in 2007. This program, well, it's kind of been up and down. This program, right, I was just counting up how many. So this will be number 9 we have current right now. So we have 9 of these programs running. That's everywhere from all the way from El Paso County to Weld, and now here in Longmont starting. So wide swath of areas, larger, smaller programs. We have the Town of Firestone program, pretty small program. They're focused on historic Firestone and a couple of their manufactured home communities. And we have City of Colorado Springs and El Paso County as well. where we do all of the rehab services for their CDBG. So that one's, Colorado Springs is close to $1 million. El Paso covers a very large area and some towns that you would blink and miss, but there's need there and we're able to address it. So that's great. So these programs have really matched up well with our mission, which is to provide housing and housing services for folks with need, both because they serve, CDBG mostly serves older adults because you have to, because of the eligibility requirements, you have to own your home, be at or below a certain AMI for income, and you have to show a need, right? So that's, for most younger families, they're moving up. They're probably renting right now, if they, and so this is for homeowners. And then also, they don't have the need to stay in their home as much as older adults do. Older adults don't have a lot of options. The largest decrease folks have in their income is usually their 60s. So hanging on, especially in the current housing environment in Colorado, state of Colorado, it's very important to try and secure, maintain, and protect housing for older adults. So that's what our programs focus on. And one of the main tools we use to do that is partnering with entitlement communities to perform community development block grant programs, because we're able to use the funds you have, our prowess and experience, the foundational and grant support we have, all of our other programs to provide not just the CDBG programming, but all of our other services can come along. So we can really kind of leverage those dollars or braid those dollars into some other services and make more of a successful outcome for us and for the city we're partnering with. So we try to stack the wins is what we say, right? So make it a win-win-win-win-win. So if you're in Longmont and we have some of their program available, we're going to refer our folks to that, right? We're also a capable program administrator. Has anybody heard of Capable? It's a Johns Hopkins design program that's client guided, and we partner with occupational therapists and nurses to work with older adults, and they create the goals, and then we help them achieve those goals in their home. They're all around health, safety, mobility. So that's a program coming, and everything we do is subsidized. So my other favorite part of our programs is I don't ever have to send anybody a bill, right? It's always, here's what we can do, here's what we can do, but I don't have to play salesman because we're just providing aid. So that's kind of the CDBG program the way we run them. We're big on compliance. Honestly, every time, I'd say for every field staff member I have, I probably have, I want to make sure we've got enough admin personnel to take care of that. We have to remain up to date on things like lead-based paint regulation, the new radon regulation that just went in last year, all the HUD rules, all the reporting requirements. My staff and subcontractors keep time like attorneys, so do I, because everything we do is going to be recorded, reported, and monitored at a certain point. We joke because at our main offices, we don't have a lot of office space, but we keep offices available for auditors because we're constantly audited. So, because we have to be using state and federal funds. So that's kind of in a nutshell how we run it. Heavy compliance, compassionate professional service, and then appropriate and required reporting, and always a focus on outcomes.
Yeah, just to add one more kind of, I guess, it's not necessarily a unique touch for Brothers, but one of the ways that we partner along with the city and with all the residents here is through ensuring that dignity is one of the primary aspects of how we interact with people. And so we're not coming in here just to get something done for you. It's really walk alongside our neighbors and make sure that we're doing obviously professional work. And that's really what we're graded on. But the way we enter into these relationships with clients, with contractors, with partners in the city, and everyone we work with is that, we are looking at a dignity 360 mindset. Everybody is a part of this to make it successful.
Which brings me, I should also mention this. So part of the mandate is changed for us with our CDBG programs in that we've started to really include over the last few years economic development. So we're trying to use, a lot of the funds we use are pass through because we're using contractor partners to do that. So if you're a contractor in this area, you want to be involved in this program, there are some hurdles that you have to have certain certifications. You have to, we have to make sure you're not been barred. All your staff has to have a background check because all of our staff are background checked. Anybody that's going to be inside one of the homes we're working on must have a background check. And it's actually 2. There's caps in the CBA. So, but in doing that, we're looking for Section 3. We're looking for small, young, and hungry contractors that are trying to build their business in their community. One of the best ways to do that is be a resource in your community. So if you partner with us, we're going to give you steady work because we're going to have people with need. And you can set yourself up as to be like, kind of be that hero, right? Show up, do the good work, help your community, but you're also building your business as you do that. So that's a big part of what we do on the business to business side, is try to help it. And we're also honestly teaching a lot of, or kind of, let's say, mentoring a lot of these contractors on, hey, here's how you work with government contracts. Here's what's expected of you. You need to have your letterhead in order. You have to have an address, not a PO box. Let's get that truck wrapped, maybe, let's be professional, wear a shirt when you show up, all that stuff, right? Not 3 guys in a bucket, it's for real time, right? So we work with folks on that, and we've had some really good success stories. We have one of our clients in Colorado Springs actually had a special needs son, so he's a stay-at-home dad, single dad, and then we talked a lot about, he was a really gregarious guy. Turns out he's a handyman. He's now one of our best contractors.
Wow.
So we were actually able to turn that around and bring him into the fold. So that's been really, really successful. So that's the other part is we do. It's kind of that stacked win is lifting up the community. So making sure these dollars are going into the community. Like we're not allowed to as CDBG. Like we're not going to, that's the thing. We're a nonprofit. We have foundational support. It's one of the reasons we can partner and do this. If I was a for-profit company, I wouldn't touch CDBG with a stick, right? There's no way. It's not made to make you money. It's there to be reinvested and spread throughout the community. So.
Yeah, and thank you for that overview.
Sure.
And just to add on to the contractor piece, that was one of the main reasons why we wanted to move to contracting out the program. So I started in my position coming up on a year ago, March of last year. And when I started, my first day was our previous Alexis, our previous federal funds program manager, whose name is Adam Sanderson, his last day. And he
that's it. That was your first day.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And he was wonderful. He
Yeah,
ran the
great.
program really well, and he had a background of construction knowledge, but even he struggled, and his biggest struggle was getting third-party contractors to bid on these projects because they're relatively small. They're dealing with all these federal regulations, and it was really hard for him to serve as many people as we had money to serve, even though he had the lingo and had the know-how. And so when he left, and he's works still at the city, still in another department, but one of his suggestions was, depending on who you hire, and even if you hire a rock star, rehab person, like it's going to be really difficult to get the contractor community to be as responsive as this program needs for us to like churn through this money we're getting. Because the other thing is with this HUD money, we have to spend a certain percentage within a very short time frame every year. And we know the need is out there in the community, but calling and waiting to get on a contractor's schedule for weeks and weeks and weeks was making it difficult. So Adam really recommended we look at doing an RFP to select a firm. And then Alexis was hired in June and has been amazing and is like our federal funding Barbie, we call her, because she's learned all these regulations. And as you've seen, she was climbing on roofs of mobile homes trying to figure it out. But it just really showed like the difficulty of continuing to administer the program in-house, trying to rely on all these third-party contractors that we need, because we can't go out there and do the work ourselves. So that was one of the main reasons that we wanted to subcontract it out, is to tap into their amazing contractor network and know that we're going to get these dollars out into the community much more quickly, much more efficiently. And we feel super confident on the compliance side and us reporting to HUD, because they know CDBG, they do this for 9 other communities in Colorado, and we could not be more excited to serve more people more effectively now that, as Alexis illustrated, the very long procurement process is over.
Yeah.
So they've
Well,
been
it's-
very patient.
And speed of government.
And now we're ready to actually start some projects. So
That's
you,
good to hear you say, because
Yeah.
our biggest barrier has always been outreach and messaging. It's finding folks that'll fill out the applications. So if you know there's need, man,
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, we've got contractors ready to go. It's getting people approved. It's usually, we're like at seniors housing fairs or, the library handing out flyers, trying to go door to door for volunteer stuff, just trying to get people interested.
Cynthia, do you want to add anything on your piece?
Not really. I support Chad in securing funding for all our departments within Brothers. I was previously with HMR, so I was processing applications for all our programs, CDBG and non-CDBG. I was also billing for all the programs we have as well. So with Longmont coming along, we'll be training our staff on how the draws will be, applications. We also have somebody new that is very available. And so what I was doing previously, since we do serve a lot of older clients, older adults, unfortunately, they're not tech savvy, right? They need assistance with the applications, collecting documents. And sometimes it's hard for them to mail documents. So just getting those applications complete, I was meeting clients in their home to help them. And so with our new staff member, she's also very available to do that.
Yeah, Cynthia was doing everything. It was like, first of the month, she was behind on billings because she had all these applications to process. End of the month, she was behind on applications because she had to get finished all the billings. So we've now split that. We have a specialist that just works on applications and intake, and then a specialist that does ERs and our billing. But our whole admin staff all understands all the regulations, how to create a draw, what you're looking like. We track everything to see what our percentage is, try to map everything out as much as we can. So, yeah.
So before we move forward, I just want to give the board a chance if anybody has any questions. Sure.
First of all, I'm impressed with what you guys are doing.
Thanks.
I think it's wonderful. My problem is the elephant in the house. The elephant in the house is the current administration, which is cutting funds.
Yes.
And I'm wondering whether HUD has got its head under the chopping block. And if that's so, how do you make up for the money that you're going to lose when they cut the program, if they cut the program?
Well,
And I'm sure you guys have considered that.
We may have had 3 or 4 meetings the last.
Yeah. Start with this contract.
But, so for this year, this funding is for 2024 funding. So none of this year's rehab should have any issues at all. So we feel very confident with that. If something were to happen, I think that we would internally have conversations around using local funds. But as it stands with the amount that we have for competitive awards and the amount for rehab, depending if there was a decrease, I think that we would feel comfortable moving forward and funding rehab as much as we can in order to meet the need. Additionally, we've been having a remarkable amount of program income come in through the CDBG program for homes that we've invested in the past. Unfortunately, some folks have passed away or moved, and so we've been receiving a lot of income that way. So we feel confident that seeing how we do this year, and if we feel comfortable moving forward and renewing the contract, that we would have the ability to do so.
That's very comforting.
Yeah, this.
I kept thinking, well, that they're doing a great job, but what if he decides not to cut the fund, not spend the funds?
Yeah, since we.
I mean,
just
yeah, you
announced-
have a promise, but he's been cutting things, just not paying them. And that bothers me because that means my city and Boulder and the other places are going to have to make up the difference. And it'd be interesting to know what that difference is.
Well, we have 9, we will have this will be 9, it'll be soon 10 CDBG programs that we administer. However, I have about 23 funding agencies that we work with for different programs. So we have state, county, private foundation, pseudo public, so the AAAs, both Boulder and Dr. Cog and the Pikes Peak AAA. So we try to keep as diversified as possible, just like any other portfolio. You want diversification for just that reason. I mean, yes, we are very heavy on CDBG, as anybody who does what we do should be right now, because that is a very available and appropriate use of funds. If other people further up the chain decide that's not what that's going to happen for a while, then we will turn to other resources that we have available, other partners and relationships we have, and we will be right there with every community we work with to try to keep and keeping services.
So I have a question about the process. So just for clarity's sake, again, I think it sounds like you do great work and have tons of experience and is well connected in the contractor world. But I was wondering, so are they going to take over the application process as well? Or are we, or is that staying in-house? How is that gonna look, and how are they going to, like you were saying, their challenge is finding the clientele that needs this. So what's gonna be our role as a city in that part?
Yes, absolutely. So number one, I'm going to say all of this without meeting with them first. Again, we just signed contracts last night, so,
I'm asking your questions for you, right?
but yes, traditionally, someone that was interested would either get their application online or at the window. We will still have applications available at the window, but it'll take a process for myself and the BRI team to meet and kind of download, get up on the current applicants that have been waiting for care. We have been taking a wait list this entire time, so I have a hefty wait list of folks for them. Additionally, we'll be doing like kind of a wraparound talk with the senior center so that they can communicate to folks and get the information out there. They also have a fantastic program called the Paint-a-thon that I would love to bring to Longmont during the summer to kind of get the word out there that we're doing the rehab, that we're doing these things. And I will also be hopefully tabling at some events on behalf of City of Longmont to get folks to know that we are here. We want to help any rehab needs that they qualify for. We're here to provide. And so it will take a bit of, time in order for us to get that. But yes, it will be one-stop shop through application to end of work through Brothers. But I will be there along the way as support and compliance and monitoring. So if by chance someone is not receiving care or they haven't gotten email back, that's when I would kind of step in and say, hey, what's going on? And making sure that things are floating the way they should be. But again, we have not had those conversations yet.
I was just wondering what the city's role was in this partnership.
So the intention, as Alexis explained very well, our intention is to really be that higher level monitoring the program, making sure HUD's getting what they need, and they are really taking the day-to-day administration.
As much as I love climbing on top of roofs, sinkholes,
I wasn't expecting that. I guess my question was really more around, like you said, what you have is those connections to the clientele.
Yes.
Because you have a waiting list. I'm assuming you've been in communication with them, and so that was just like how are we making that transition?
Yeah, and I think one of the Alexis has a bunch of marketing ideas, which I'm really excited about because kind of out of necessity, we couldn't really do a very good job of community engagement and marketing on the program last year because her position was between Adam leaving and, the time it took to hire, that was 5+ months. And we knew we were moving to this subrecipient model. And so we're really excited to hit the ground running once we've ironed out kind of the program administration details and really get the word out into the community that like, hey, this is a resource. This is something that the city is choosing to put the majority of our CDBG funding into because we know it makes such a difference. And council has kind of given us that reassurance over and over again that they see this program as really valuable. So we'll be able to shout from the rooftops a lot more this year than we were last year. Yeah, which we're excited about.
Any other questions from those online? All right. Jeffrey, go ahead.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit more about the impact you're anticipating? You highlighted that photo of the roof. can you provide some other examples of projects that we should expect in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Most of our need does center from those who are in manufactured homes or mobile homes. Our biggest need in those areas are from Mountain View and Countryside Village. And most of those are roofs. That is a big problem for us. In our site-built homes, the biggest need is usually furnaces. Furnaces or windows to meet kind of energy code updates. But mostly the need is in our lower AMI or 50% and below for our mobile homes, and it's usually roof.
And how many projects do you expect every year?
That data is difficult to tell at this point since it was mixed with the city of Boulder, but I can tell you that since 2015, I did some research myself. Since 2015, the city of Longmont has served over 104 mobile homes and 61 stick-built homes within the city. And so those are homes that are still as part of the housing stock of the city of Longmont, and that are assumed without some sort of intervention would not be part of that stock.
Yeah, in
Thank
terms
you.
of dollar amount, so this particular contract was for 180,000, but since we put that number out with the RFP in the fall, we've gotten, our accountant Larissa is smiling, like a bonkers amount of CDBG program income. So we're gonna have even more than that. We're gonna be well over 200,000 to put into the program for actual projects in 2025, which is exciting. And as I mentioned, this is the largest single use we use our CDBG for, because we really see that direct impact between those federal dollars and into the community. So, and that's money that was already promised by HUD. 2025, we'll all collectively see what comes down the pipe, but we're happy to have that amount in hand for projects this year. Yeah.
Awesome. Alejandro, I see your hand up. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so it's renovation in total of the units, because does that include HVAC, ventilation, heating, cooling? You know,
So it's not
growing
in total.
concerns. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's only in portions of the unit. Again, when we continue the rest of the presentation, you all will be voting on some updated guidelines that I would like to change in order to make more work happen and kind of make that stretch for folks. But it does have to fit within our guidelines of being a health or safety risk, being a code or building update. It would have to fall within those. So we can't give folks, you know, an addition to their house or a new porch. It has to be something that it's deemed necessary.
So something like ventilation and HVAC, that would be something, right? I mean, with climate change the way it is, we're having hotter summers and colder winters.
It is dependent. Our program usually has 2 inspections. So traditionally it'd be inspection by me as the program operator, and then an inspection done by our contractor. Now that we have brothers under us, that will probably look a little different, but it will probably still be a 2-process inspection to see if that's necessary. But again, I can't make those claims, but I can hear if the homeowner feels as though it's an issue. And I take those very seriously.
Yeah, I think we have done, I think Adam completed some HVAC and ventilation related. Certainly if it's a health or safety risk or accessibility, those are really and HUD has guidelines over what that encapsulates, and you'll get into the totality piece, I'm sure.
And we work with LEAP and Longmont Solar and all the other programs to make sure that we're not duplicating and that we're providing the fastest care. Because again, as a federal program, we do tend to be on the slower side. So we try to get folks the care when they need it.
Catherine?
Yeah, so when you do these projects, do you get insurance? Like when you do a new roof, do you get from the provider? And if so, is that getting harder to get or more expensive?
Do you guys want to speak to insurance?
Yeah, sure. So the eligibility to be, as a homeowner, you do need to have homeowner's insurance to participate in CDBG. So we do not have folks sign a lien waiver because this is a grant program. So there's nothing really to lien. Technically, there's a contractor there working for us and the city. The client is the outcome, right? So that's the target. They're not responsible fiscally, right? They've just filled out. They're receiving a grant on behalf of so forth. So no, how we do it is we'll do an initial assessment. The approval process is home ownership, homeowners insurance, show your income, and then obviously have need that's appropriate within CDBG guidelines, which is health, safety, deferred maintenance, accessibility, barrier removal, and aging home issue or aging home rehab, which is like code enforcement stuff usually. But it has to be looped back. Health and safety is the big one. And then once we have that approval with the application, we do a full home assessment, sometimes in partnership with their municipal partners. It really depends on how they want to model the program. We provide a proposal that's narrative, line item with cost. It includes some contractor, labor, and material. And then once we have that approved, we move forward with activity, perform the activity, test for lead if it's pre-78, test for radon if it doesn't have a radon mitigation system, take care of all the compliance components. And then when we're done, we have, the client signs off on the work that's been approved, and then they sign off when it's done, say this was completed, I am okay with what happened here. And then we save the files for 7 years. It's that simple.
So I guess the follow-up question to that is there any warranty protection?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything we do besides like a mobile home roof coat, which is, so if we're just repairing an existing, they call structural member or part of a home, that's not going to have like a warranty. Anything we're installing or replacing is going to have a 1-year warranty. They require a 1-year warranty. All our subcontractors understand that. If it's HVAC, water heater, furnace, heat pump, whatever that may be, that'll be manufacturer warranty, which those are usually around 5. But workmanship's always at least 1 year. And they get a warranty, they get a copy of their proposal and their warranty information at the time of closing of the contract, or not the contract, the project.
And that's similar for the existing program as well.
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah, awesome. 1 year's the call.
Do you want to
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? Do you want to get back to your presentation?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep, since I'm the chair now, I can't ask.
Yeah, of
I have
course.
to wait for y'all. One of my questions is, do you find that cities are saving a lot more money on rent, providing this service to folks through your organization, now that you guys probably have ongoing contractors who maybe are locked into certain prices or what they charge you folks? Like, do cities save money going through you versus kind of having, just seeing whatever contractors are coming up and
Right.
shifting around?
So the normal contractor model, if I was for profit, I would hire a roofer to go do a roof, and then I would upcharge 10, 15%. That's how I make my money, right? We're not allowed to do that, especially with CDBG. We don't do it because of mission-based, but we're also not allowed to do it for CDBG. So that pass-through funding. So yeah, the answer is yes, you're saving money that we're doing. We take our administration fee, which is part of the contract for the entire program, but it's very small and it's for the program, not for each project. It's divvied out there so that when we do a project, that roofer is doing the roof. I'm taking his bid, putting it in the file, taking his invoice, putting it in the file. He's getting reimbursed for that. We are not.
Okay.
So let's speak to the efficiency too. That's one of the reasons we're probably in more demand right now, is because the administrative burden that it requires to actually oversee and implement all this delivery specifically. There's always going to be monitoring in the process, and that's really important and complicated as well. But getting that delivery going is just the hard part. And we're really good at that. We understand the compliance. We're built in a way that we're really efficient and effective with using federal funds, which is not normally the case necessarily with all the nonprofits across, but we've kind of got a sweet spot to be able to really provide that service for students. So I think that's one of the reasons that I think we're getting more conversations and having a lot more conversations over the last 15 years is that we take out a lot of the stress out of the headache.
We're also, there's a cap for each project. And if we exceed that cap, unless there's an absolute scope creep, and even that there's a certain CDBG cap you just can't go over. But we have foundational support, we have grant dollars, I have I call my back pocket funds, which I don't tell anybody about. But if we need to use those, we use those instead of saying, okay, well, now we're gonna send somebody a bill, or now we're gonna try to put a lien on that, or now we're gonna get in a fight with the city. That's not, that doesn't lead to good relationships, doesn't lead to good outcomes. So there's a hard cap. So you're saving money that you know exactly what you're getting into.
Yep.
Your known costs, lower overhead, and then, yeah, as he said, the deliveries, it's gonna be, you're walking into a network instead of, I hope this works.
Which in turn provides more
Yeah,
services.
right, yeah.
I would say we are saving money, but the way I think of it is we're saving our folks money instead of figuring out, how do I make this stretch? They can't help me for another month. How do I make this work? We're shortening that time so they can receive support faster. And to me, that's what's important, is that they receive the support that they need, because the money is there. It's just about getting the work done. So I'm very excited, and I know they're a highly qualified team, so.
2 more questions. One, you stated that you prioritize seniors. Are you also serving families with children?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if they fit the eligibility, age is not an eligibility requirement, it's just very common.
Okay, and if they don't have that home insurance, can they opt into home insurance to qualify for your program?
Yeah, we just have to have an active homeowner's insurance policy while we're doing the project.
Okay, and then you stated that folks who are gonna take part of this program will also be eligible for your other services that you offer through your organization.
Yep.
Will those services also be offered to other community members who are not getting that rehab done?
Oh, absolutely.
So, and one of the programs I didn't talk about too is our Colorado Housing Connects helpline. So it's basically, have a question about housing, call the helpline, talk to a navigator who has a great resource that will give you a direct handoff.
Put it on the back of all our cards.
On the back of all of our
On
cards.
everything.
So it really is plugging into the network. So when we meet with folks, and especially when we're doing our application eligibility checks, like that's when that handoff really happens. And one of the reasons it's so effective for us is that we're there with them in the house. We're going to do a project with them. We're helping with an application. When I have a referral, it's because it's to somebody I know, and I'm talking to you about somebody I know and trust. And so the handoffs and that's a big deal in the referral world, and in social services for sure. And so that really makes a big difference. But we have statewide programs that folks will be eligible for too. And so, yeah, there's tons of opportunities all the way around.
So like if someone went to the office and got an application and maybe didn't qualify for the rehab, you guys could pass along some of the other resources that they offer. Or maybe we'll build some additional to provide for folks since we're not running the program anymore.
Right. We've had folks that have come with, I have all this need, but they don't income qualify. So maybe they need some housing counseling to talk about how they're dealing with their finances and their investment in their home versus maintenance. And then once they go through our housing counseling program, then they're more fiscally responsible. They're able to understand what the cost of maintaining a home really means in a more robust way. And then they don't maybe need this program. Maybe they're ready to move on to like some other more self-starter programs that we can refer them to as well. Because that CHC program it's statewide, and it's senior first-time home buyer housing counseling. It's anything related to housing justice. It's all included in there. So our call center is connected that way.
Perfect. And then just to comment, I really admire that you guys work with small homegrown contractors and invest in the community that way. That's super huge, and that's a huge seller as far as my end. So thank you for the work that you do. We're excited to work with you. All right.
Turn it back to you to finish your presentation and
Thank you.
get the votes you need.
Could you just
Any
send a
questions?
slide, please? Awesome. So these are our current guidelines for our site-built homes. I will highlight on here that you will need to have homeowners insurance. You need to have a clear title on the property, no property taxes or liens on there. You also need to be current on all your mortgage payments. The big thing to highlight on this is that you must be at or below 80% AMI, and that's for Boulder County. This currently is a grant up to $10,000 or a loan up to $25,000. Next slide, please. For our manufactured homes, very similar. You must show evidence of owning the property, be current on all your property taxes, no liens on the property, be current on lot rent. Something to highlight here is that for our manufactured homes, you must be tied down or on a cement pad. So no manufactured homes that are still on wheels are eligible. And you must be below or at 50% AMI for our manufactured homes. And this is a maximum grant of $10,000. The photo of the roof that I showed earlier, that was not a roof replacement. That was a TPO membrane roof that will last that applicant 7 years. And that was a $10,000 maximum grant. So what we are coming to ask you all today, next slide, would be that we update these program changes in order to make the stick-built home option just a grant, no longer offering the lien. For manufactured homes to be eligible, they must be built after 1975. HUD did their manufacturing, construction, and safety rules in 1974. That's when they started kind of making that guidance on what a manufactured home should look like and what should be there. And so we would like to move forward with that. And the last one would be a grant increase from $10,000 to $15,000. This is because of inflation, also due to the decrease of Social Security that a lot of folks are seeing. So in order to kind of make that kind of stretch for our folks in our manufactured homes, we'd love to see that increase. Before, I think in 2018, the mobile home program only offered up to $5,000. So it has jumped, but again, we are still seeing that need, and it is not always meeting the price in order to get there. So I think increasing it to 15 would really help us make a lot of great change, especially when it comes to the mobile homes. And so that is what we'd like to ask you all members to vote and approve on. We have made these program updates with a lot of time and care, and we really hope that this will elevate and help a lot of the folks that are coming into our program.
I have a question. The manufactured home, that's a mobile home?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. I have a question on that too.
Oh, no, go right ahead. Very good.
So I guess my question is, because again, and maybe we don't know this, but if the board votes on that piece right there, how many mobile homes will become ineligible because they're pre-75?
So I actually have a list.
Oh, good.
Because I thought this might be a question.
Came prepared.
I tried. So here's a couple of handouts, and I can make sure that this gets included to the email. And again, this doesn't include all the stock of what is in the city. This is just based off of my my attempt at getting it there. There's also studies that I've printed out that was done by the the University of Boulder on their mobile homes and their effectiveness in the city. And so I have those for you all as well. They're really big reports, but there will be a loss in stock. That is true. There will be some folks that will not be able to be helped. But currently, as it stands, they would be over the program limits, depending on how much work would be necessary.
In other words, those units are going to have a difficult time. You're going to be patching those because you can't do anything material because they're just not in a condition to do it.
Yeah, and I would add, Alexis cited the HUD rules. It's really difficult to bring a home up to health and safety standards when the standards in which that home were built to was before there were even regulations. And secondly, and this is a difficult problem that we do face in some of our parks, but some of these homes are so old that frankly, we don't really consider them a part of the city's permanent housing stock. And they're not suitable for folks to be living in them. And that's really difficult, but we can't argue to HUD and to the federal government that we're putting investment into a vehicle essentially that's not a part of the permanent housing stock when we could take that same 15,000 and fix up a home that is a part of the city's permanent housing stock. And so there are some home, manufactured homes that are too far gone, for lack of a better term. And I think that's why getting connected with larger resource networks to maybe find alternatives for those folks is really the path forward, because we don't want to be putting our limited federal dollars into homes that are not going to serve a family 20 years from now, because they're already past their useful life. So that's another layer to it.
Catherine?
So yeah, actually, the 1975, is that like just because they're 50 years old? And if so, then wouldn't it make, maybe could it make sense to say older than 50 years so that every year it would change a little? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So that 1975 was picked because that's when HUD developed their standardized, rules for how to move forward with a manufactured home and what that would
Okay,
look
yeah.
like.
All right, that's great. Thank you. Forget the rest of my question then.
On the manufactured home, so we're not requiring homeowners insurance in the manufactured homes. Did I see that on the slide?
That is correct.
Is that correct? Okay, because I know that pre-75, you almost can't get it anyway. Okay, that makes sense.
And what is, so 317 is the total that will not be eligible, correct?
If what is proposed tonight is voted.
And what's the total stock? of manufactured homes?
And so
It's like, what percentage is this? Did I do?
26.
Oh, sorry, I missed that, 775. Okay, so it's a fairly
Yes.
sizable percentage.
again, these are not all the parks in the city. These are just ones that we have worked with closely.
Okay.
Within the last 5 years. There was multiple parks that I just couldn't get information
Got
from.
it. So there might be other stock that is
Yes.
affected, but we don't have that
Yes,
data. Okay.
absolutely. This was just my best guess to kind of gather as much data as possible, because I know it's kind of, it's a large ask, and there's a lot of folks that would be put out of consideration, but I did try to put all the pieces in place to make sure that they were thought of at least.
I have a question, if no one else has a question, with a follow-up question to my question. My first question is, do we know, so I'm assuming some of these homes that were built back then are probably some of your like single, what is the word I'm looking for, guys? Not like the double wides, but the single wide trailers. How much are those homes going for these days? Do you know off the top of your heads?
You mean like resale?
To just buy one?
Oh,
Yeah.
New or like out of the stock that exists, like if you saw it online?
Yeah, maybe used, new, and good condition.
Well, I know anecdotally if for ones that are that old, it actually, they're selling, you can't sell them. Like folks are having to pay to get them towed off.
Like one that's like for sale, maybe like new or fairly new for resale. Just a guess, you don't know.
So we just sold, you're the Insignia trailer. The city just sold a mobile home, and I'm sorry, I don't know the year it was built. It was built within the last 10 years. That was the result of a disaster recovery buyout from the 2013 floods that we had assumed the property, and that we just sold at about $80,000 for a relatively new one, to give you a sense.
And so my follow-up question is, I'm wondering for these folks who may not qualify for the rehab, but need a home. I know that there's affordable housing options and Section 8 units and stuff like that. Could we use our down payment assistance to help and put a good sum on a new modular home, on a new trailer? Could we potentially, like, since they don't flow through this, then we could reflow them and say, hey, this is an option. So since we can't repair it and your home is basically unlivable, maybe an option for you is to apply for the down payment assistance. And could that go toward purchasing a mobile home, or are mobile homes off the table with that program?
Yeah, good question. So the new down payment assistance program, which we mentioned briefly, I think in January, and we'll be coming back with more information in March. So we're standing up a new locally funded down payment assistance program. And yes, folks would be eligible for that. I will say that most of the folks living in 1970s or older mobile homes, they frankly don't have, they're so low income, they wouldn't have the cash flow to probably consider. It would more be finding them a placement and a permanently subsidized rental, most likely.
And if they want to leave, we have had situations where folks have been denied in the program, and we've, gone to LHA and tried to see if there was a list that we could get them on, or, a lot of folks do not want to leave. They like their space. They just want help on keeping their space. So trying to help them where they are is also a big piece.
The other thing is most of these mobile home parks, so that kind of like we'll call it a trap. It's a trap. You own your home. You own your home for 20 years. You don't own the ground, and there's no rent control. So these folks are still paying what's called lot fees. And we've got folks that are paying lot fees in excess of $900 and $1,200. That doesn't cover anything except your house that you can't move anyways. You couldn't afford to move if you wanted to. It's the rent for the rectangle land you're sitting on. That's all it is. You're responsible for sewer, water, electrical, everything's your problem. You still have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So it makes it very difficult on a fixed income with medical needs, with lack of proper retirement funds to save anything. You're just, your social security, whatever, if you have a pension, it's just going to that and food and medicine. So it makes it very hard. So those programs are great. They're probably more for like a low-income family with maybe a child with a disability that they're trying to move on to something like that. That would be probably the prime target there. But for the vast majority of folks, they're just trying to stay because this is their only option for housing.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, good question. Alrighty. Can you speak to any of your other entitlements? And there is the 1975 mobile home a fairly common program guideline?
Yeah, pretty much. And there's, at a certain point, they're not, the HUD standards are a big one. And it's also just there's no really diplomatic way to say it. They're just not, it's not an appropriate use of rehab funds because it's where do you start, right? It's like, well, you can live in this half of the house if we replace all the flooring and if we duct tape the windows or something like that. You can't, those houses, you can't replace the windows, you can't widen the doors. You can recoat the roof, but you can only do that so many times that roof gets real heavy and starts sagging that you don't want to coat it anymore. I mean, what else? Paint-a-thon's seen stuff where like paint's holding the house together. So yeah. There's some, it's rough. They weren't built to last as long as they've had to last. So that's the reason why. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is across the board CDBG. And then there's usually, they're going away from a designation from one amount for mobiles to another because they realize that is an affordable option. It's the only option in a lot of communities. So that's, you're in line there. And the amounts are all in line as well. They're pretty across the board.
Yeah, that's more of the vernacular, like more recently, is that actually occurring affordable housing, like mobile home parks provide a very important space there. So.
Thank you. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I know there can be benefits to having a revolving loan fund, but it sounds like the recommendation here is to discontinue that. I was just wondering why.
So as we've had folks entering the program, there has been a lot of hesitancy on getting work done on the house if it means the city has to put a loan or a lien on the home. So a lot of folks will hear, oh, I'm eligible for this work, but can I just stop at the 10,000 so I can just get a grant? And that's really limiting not only the applicants, but the work that can be done in the home in order to maximize that home's opportunity to be stocked within the city of Longmont. So we just thought it would just be the best case, especially since it is a grant program in order to help the homes. We're not expecting that payback. But since it has been set up that way and we are getting a lot of that money back, we don't really feel the need to keep that as something that is necessary there. Would you like to speak more to that, Christy?
Yeah, I think Alexis's point is the most important, which was the loan does scare people away, which that's not the point. We're trying to serve people, but programmatically and administratively, knock on wood going forward, but traditionally we get 400-some thousand from HUD every year, and it is spend it within a year. Like, go get moving, get money out. We get dinged if we don't spend it in a timely manner. And I know Larissa, our accountant, is laughing because actually getting those loans back when folks either unfortunately pass away or if they sell their homes, it's kind of an accounting nightmare to get that program income. Yes, it's nice to be able to take that money and do more projects, but it's actually much cleaner for our books and for our HUD reporting to make them as grants and get them out efficiently our affordable housing fund, which you guys will hear more in a couple months when we go through that funding cycle. And that's our local dollars. That is very much set up to be a revolving loan program. But on the federal side, program income, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. And really, when it's a double win of serving more people, not scaring them by putting a deed of trust on their house and getting more money out the door quickly, it's kind of a win-win. So we're hoping to move to the grant model for those reasons.
And did I hear correctly? Did you say, oh, I'm sorry.
No, we call them. No, you're fine.
Did you say that that roof was 10,000 just to repair?
Yes, and that was really out of the kindness of that contractor's heart. He was really moved by that applicant's story and just her personality. She's a very vibrant, wonderful woman. And he did it 10,000 flat. When I did my own estimates in order to go get bids for a contractor to do it, it was not coming up as 10. It was around 12, sometimes 14, depending on the contractor.
And so is the majority of the work generally repair as opposed to replace? Is that how that rolls, or?
Traditionally for our mobile homes, yes. And I think it is because of where the funding amount is. And hopefully with expanding that to 15,000, we have a little more wiggle room to kind of make those things happen. But mostly for our mobile homes, it's either the repair, or if you can make it happen, the replacement of the roof or heating furnace.
So you can replace a mobile home roof, and can you do that for 15,000?
It would all be dependent on the unit and the contractor and just looking at it. It's all kind of on a case by case.
I can answer. So if it's a flat roof like the one you saw in the photo, those are not replaced.
Okay.
Just you have, that's why they invented
Got
the
it.
membrane system.
Just keep
So
it.
it's kind of like recarving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. If it's a pitched roof that has shingle, anything with shingle can be replaced, even if it's low. If we do a roll roof or a different kind of elastomeric, then that can be replaced. Mobile home roofs are more expensive to replace because the way they're built, you have to usually replace the sheeting as well every time you replace the roof. So it's like, I just got a bid back for one for a double wide, and it was $18,000 for the roof. That's because they're gonna have to repair framing, they're gonna have to take apart a swamp cooler and put it back. I mean, everything's there, and it's the way they build them. They're very hard. They're not built to be
Or washed all over by 12 people.
So you're taking conventional building techniques and applying it to something that was built in a warehouse and driven.
So so your change in the amount is not necessarily because you want to buy new roofs in every instance.
No, not in every instance. And of course, the need isn't always roofs. Some folks need other things. It's just, at least in my experience, going out and visiting these folks in their homes and doing the inspections and hearing the need, and then sending a contractor out and having them do an itemized list and seeing it come up to 11,900. And then I have to tell that person, you were just a little bit over the limit. And I cannot help you, even though the need is there. I've seen it. I've heard it from you, but I cannot help you. It's very difficult. And so I think, though it is a bit more money, I think that it will really be leveraged correctly in this area.
Everything in mobile and manufactured is more expensive. Furnaces are more expensive. Water heaters are more expensive. If you want to do a ramp on a manufactured home, it's usually, unless it's was built a very specific way, it's usually about 3 feet off the ground. So code for ramps are 112 pitch. That's 1 foot for every inch down. That's e-liches in your front yard. Is what you're trying to do, right? So we have to find other ways to get people into their house. So it's a very affordable entry front end housing option. The rest of the time you live there, good luck. It's just more expensive.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I was just wondering officially, is the staff asking the board to decide on these 3 criteria, or are we making a recommendation to the city council to make the final decision?
Yeah, good question. So my understanding from Molly, who's not at the meeting tonight, is that the advisory board has jurisdiction over our program guidelines. So city council approves the amount of funding out of CDBG that goes to rehab. They approve in general our program direction, but the actual program specifics is your all's area. So yeah, Alexis is asking for your approval on her recommended changes tonight.
So,
And how often do you update these criteria?
These criteria was last updated in 2020.
Now, again, I've been here for a while. You all don't come very often with these things. Yeah, it doesn't happen super often, Jeffrey. I think in the 7 years I've been here, I think I've had 3 or 4 conversations with HCI staff about changing. Now, there's some other stuff, I don't believe, the inclusive housing stuff that goes to council, but it also comes here. That happens, seems to happen more often. But yeah, it's not a whole lot of stuff that you guys bring.
And it can be changed, it can be changed again, right? So if 2 years from now, inflation continues to rise and we can't get good work done because materials are too expensive, we could always revisit these levels
And also
increase them as
We'll
needed.
see we'll see, Jeffrey, what the efficiency and scale that Brothers Redevelopment will bring to it as well.
I'm willing to make a motion that we adopt these if now's a good time.
I have one more question. For the folks on the wait list who may have a manufactured home prior to 1974, was it, or 5? Are they going to be grandfathered into the requirements?
So
or-
everyone that's on the wait list now, I have let know that there are some, hypothetical programmatic changes that may be coming. And I have been kind of vetting them as they've been coming in. We have no one on the wait list right now that does not meet criteria. The folks that are currently in our wait list that were applicants that have been waiting for care this entire time, we have about 5. I'm hoping that dependent on the vote, that those folks will move from ineligible to eligible because their work was deemed over $10,000. So hopefully they will be able to move forward with their work. But yes, everyone that's currently waiting, our 5 that are waiting, and then our 10 that are waiting on the wait list are all eligible.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jeffrey,
Need a motion? You need.
did I hear you motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve these 3 recommendations that come from staff.
Aliberto, I see your hand up.
Alejandro.
Uh-huh.
You said Liberto.
No, I said Alejandro.
Oh, I heard Liberto.
No, Eliberto, but that's okay. I understood. I second that motion.
All right, so you got your second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. All right, you guys are good to go.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you.
conversation. I'm looking forward to see what you all can bring to the community. In particular, these other programs that just come alongside you. So.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you for serving our community.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity.
Have a safe ride home.
What's our next?
All righty.
We get to talk about that site visit.
Oh, yeah, this is my favorite stuff. Yeah, that was the wrong, so that should not have been on the agenda. Yes.
So I had the wrong agenda.
Yes, you
I
did.
got it,
Yeah,
it was the wrong one.
That's why I apologize. Yeah, yes.
It could have been because that's my first day.
Yeah, no, that was on us.
My glasses.
Christy had asked Yeah, no. Christy had asked us to remove that one, and I thought I had, and sorry, my apologies. No.
All right.
You're good.
So moving on to agenda item number 6, to discuss and finalize the site visit schedule for 2025.
All right, I'm gonna share this. So this, and I'm gonna do a little bit of background for our new members because, for those for Katie and for Mark, I'm gonna set the basis for these. All right. So when you look at the ordinance, and we're gonna get you that big zip file so you can see the ordinance.
Not a big hurry.
So one of the things on the ordinance, one of the roles of this board is to review and monitor our contracts, our agreements with our nonprofits. And the way that we do that is I'm gonna close the door so they can have their conversations. The way that we do that is we do site visits with our funded partners. And it is on a 3-year cycle. And or if you are a completely new agency, then you get a a site visit, okay? And what this site visit really entails is, it used to be back in 2018 when I first started, it was a pretty big production. It felt like a federal monitoring visit. And then the board in about 2020, 2021 said, really what we want to know is how are things going with the organization? How are we, how are they working on the goals that they said they were gonna do, and really want to learn more about the organization, want to be better partners. And so that changed how we did site visits. And so we do, like I said, every 3 years, and I have a list of all the ones that we have done. And then I've added the new ones that have come in. So for 2025, and I'll stop here in a second and we can, if you have questions or other board members want to talk about their experiences with site visits, we have, I think, because we funded so many agencies this year, we have about 18 site visits that we have to do. I know, it's a huge one. It's a huge one. You all funded a bunch of agencies, so I had to go do site visits. Of these, how many are new? Let me count the new ones. So Sister Carmen is new. A Precious Child is new. Foundation for Scalable Innovation is new. Imagine is new. Qualified Listeners is new. Civil Society is new. So yeah, those are all new.
Wow.
Those are all new agencies that I got to do a desk audit. I'm going to talk about that in a second. A desk audit and a site visit as well. Okay. So what is a desk audit? So it's not a financial audit. First of all, not that I mean, yeah, if they many of them do send me their financial audits, but it's really an audit of, do you follow the best practices? And there is a form in, again, going back to the manual, it's in the manual too, that was called Best Practices or for Nonprofits in Colorado. And so it just talks about how you structure your board. You have these type of policies in your employee manual. For the most part, it's pretty dry, and most nonprofits that we've been funding for a long time, it's a quick desk audit because I just go back and I look and check boxes. They have an employee manual, they have a grievance policy, they have a conflict of interest policy, they have all of this stuff. Where it gets interesting for me, and again, this is one part of the desk audit is also asking about their strategic planning. And that is always fun for me. That's probably one of my favorite things. And then the other part of the desk audit is I ask for 3 months of their board minutes. Nonprofit board minutes are some of the most fun things to read ever. If you've been on a board before, you've been the chair of a board, and I've read minutes of some really interesting situations in nonprofits. Nonprofits face all sorts of challenges. So, I've learned about just challenges they're facing with volunteers or finances or whatever. I find those really helpful. And so then I go and either if the site visit can be, I like to do it on site. If they're in Denver, I just set up a virtual meeting and I talk to them. I don't actually want to drive down to Denver to their site. But if they're in Boulder County, like I've gone to a whole bunch of nonprofits. One of my favorite was we went to what's it called? I'm looking at it right now. Blue Sky Bridge. And they have such a beautiful, welcoming unit or building, because the kind of work that they do is so heart-wrenching, right? Because what they do, what we fund them, and is that they do therapeutic sessions with children who's experienced sexual abuse. And they also do forensic interviews with police departments or kids that have. So you walk into that building and it is one of the most peaceful buildings you'll ever walk into, because they really need that for those kids. So anyway, so that's kind of thing. Now, where you come into it, I always have these and I try when possible. The challenge is many of you work and it's hard to get out of work. And I do these typically during my workday. right? And so it's hard to get board members to come, but you're always invited to come to these site visits. I've had multiple board members come. I've had some that it was a very big group. Sometimes it's just me. But then I come and report back to you during our board meetings. And so tonight, what I was going to do, and we technically don't need a vote on it, but I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. And if I guess the only thing is, if you have any other ideas for the site visits, like, then that would be what we can discuss tonight, but I don't need a vote on it. I'm just reporting back saying, these are the dates. So I want to start in April because I want to give folks time to get their desk audit stuff together. And I'm going to go through September because if I can't really go into October because we're all so busy in October reviewing that it gets hard to do that. So yeah, any questions about the site visit process or thoughts?
When do you typically populate your dates?
As soon as I can.
Okay, so you just let folks know.
Well, I got to negotiate with them to see when they're available and stuff like that.
So will you populate the dates and then let us know?
Yes.
And then we go.
I want to be better about that this year. I'll try and send it monthly. I'm gonna try to be better about it this year.
And then we'll just let you know.
Let me know if you can come. Yeah. I'll try and be better about it this year. And Robert already gave me his. All right, Robert, I'll take this.
Do we have anybody online raising their hand? I can't see.
Yeah, let me get back. Yeah.
Questions from our online folks? Nope. All right.
Actually, oops, sorry. Yes. Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
When we review the applications, right? We don't look at the site visit reports aren't part of the application, right? I mean, could they, I'm just thinking, and maybe this is for a different night, but that it would help, for me, it would have helped reviewing the applications if I had even more like data on like a site visit. Does that?
So you're talking about visit the site before the applications is voted on and ranked?
Yeah.
I think the only challenge with that is we don't site visit everybody, right? So would it create an unfair situation where, let's say you did a site visit for an agency that's applying and you didn't do one for one?
It would.
To
answer your question, it would.
Yeah, so that would be my only concern, Cassie, is that we don't site visit every single, we're funding 59 agencies this year. And we're doing 19 site visits or 17, whatever it is, site visits. So yeah, I'd be worried about it creating some sort of unfair advantage or if you got a site visit or disadvantage, right? If the site visit didn't go well. So that would be my only concern about that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I would say that just like it was said, my only ask is just having those dates a little bit in advance.
I'll be better about it this year.
Like these are, and then I can schedule those in and be more present at those this year.
Yeah. I will tell you all, this group is kind of new that maybe you've not, but I think when board members go and talk and hear, it is an experience to be. I know, Crystal, you have been on some in the past, and it is quite the experience to have that conversation with the nonprofit at their place, and you can hear their stories, and you can, so.
I was grilling one nonprofit one year because I was new and I was a little unsure about the purpose of the interview and whether it was funding connected, and I'm grilling them, poor people. I think it was Colorado Legal Service.
Yes, that was a good one. And that's fine. The idea is how do we develop that relationship with nonprofits that we're funding, right?
Yeah.
And they want it. The nonprofits want that relationship. They really do. Oh, I got folks on.
Yeah, I can't see who was first.
I said one was Jeffrey and two was Alejandro.
Okay, go right ahead, Jeffrey.
I think you answered it. My question was, what's the purpose? What are you trying to gain from those site visits? But it sounds like it's about relationship development and understanding how they operate. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's
And
what the
not
board wants.
grilling them.
Well,
Not scaring them away.
develop the relationship so that you can grill them.
There you
later.
go.
Yeah.
Alejandro?
Yeah, I find it great to just see the organizations throughout the year, how they do, what the work they're doing. Just like, peep in there, take a look, what's going on. It helps a lot for that grading
I will say,
later.
Medicine Horse maybe a real fun one.
Yeah.
So you go out and actually see the horses.
And we can go ride some horses, huh?
Yeah.
Grill 'em.
But-
Actually, I'm not good at it.
Yeah, you can go see the horses. Yeah, some of these are gonna be great. I went with St. Benedict's, the last time I did it, I went to their mobile clinic, which was interesting. Because we fund them for a mobile clinic. So yeah,
Awesome.
I will be better about it this year. I just sometimes get overwhelmed and don't send it out because I just get them done.
Yeah.
But, all right, that's all I had.
Any other questions on this agenda item? No? All right. Well, we're not voting on it, so we'll just move on to announcements and other business. Do we have any announcements and other business?
The only other business is, I don't mean to be a total pain in the butt, but we still cannot access any documents.
Yeah, we before you came in, I was talking to Mark about, but I think what we're gonna have to end up doing, I was talking to Amy, is just create a big zip file
That would be great.
and send it to you.
Yeah.
There's just, it's a mystery. I mean, I think you could sit here and airdrop stuff, but it would be really awesome just to get a zip file.
I think that's what we're gonna end up having to do, because we just, for some reason, older board members could access it, and so we're gonna just send
Yeah,
it out.
so that was my question is if the current board members and other board members that are tied with advisory boards to the city can access all these, then it can't be an authentication issue.
I think
I mean,
I'm guessing. that the
IT's just all
I think the cybersecurity standards have changed, and my guess
That's
is
exactly what I was telling Mark. So, and we'll also send it to the whole board, because you may not be able to access it anymore, and you may not have
And
to
we
leave
may
it
break
anymore.
it for everybody.
Yeah, you guys might, you may
This
not have
file would
to.
be awesome. I mean, because I feel a little ridiculous asking.
No, it's fine.
I'm like, yeah.
'Cause I know Amy's been talking
Yeah.
to our IT folks for a while.
So when can they expect to hear back?
So Amy gets back, Amy's out, she gets back on Tuesday, I'll work with her on trying to get it by the end of next week.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Any other business or announcements? I have one. More like, I don't know if we put it on our next agenda item, or if you could look into it, or I can look into it to report back our next meeting. But I was watching a city council meeting, and I was talking to you a little bit about it, Aliberto. The library board brought a item to city council to get approval for lockers, library lockers. And the city council has a special funding that they have access to. And I want to say they approved it was either 17,000 or 70,000. I'm not sure exactly the amount. I don't remember. But then I thought, I wonder what that fund is, and I wonder what it can be used for, and how that might be used for within our board if we see a need come up in the community, and how that might look going and presenting that to city council if that were to come up. And so how could we go about finding out what that fund is for, and if it's available to Housing and Human Services Board?
So I'm looking at Christina.
Should we invite our representative from City Council, McCoy, to our meeting to talk about that fund, you think?
A couple things. Yeah, our board liaison is invited to every meeting, and so we can follow up with Councilmember McCoy. And the fund that you're talking about, Crystal, is the Council Contingency Fund. And it just really varies at any given point, any point in time in the year, how much is in that fund. It should be printed at the bottom of each agenda, and I haven't looked at it lately. But it just really it just really depends on kind of what those needs are. I know that in the past, there have been organizations that have been funded through council contingency fund. And so I think it is, if organizations have had to take a hit, sometimes they have gone and talked with council, and council will pool money out of there. It's used citywide. And kind of dependent upon how they want to use it. And so I don't think that I think that is something that probably is best discussed with the liaison. And I think that probably the best thing that we could do is invite our council member, to come to these meetings.
Yeah,
Or even the city
Yeah.
manager too, maybe he would know if McCoy's.
Right. Right. I guess the other thing that I would add is that it's not dependable funding. And so, if, we don't want to count on that in our budget if we, want to ask for example, there's a shortage of funds. We already know that the need is far outpacing the resources that we have in funding our nonprofits. And I don't think I know that council contingency fund couldn't help fix that problem. I think we need to look at a broader approach to that. And Eliberto and I have kind of been working on that, and have been engaging nonprofits and trying to solve that. I don't think that that's a long-term solution though.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I pulled up the council agenda. So the 2025 council contingency amount is $30,000.
30,000.
And there is some rollover from last year.
Thanks, Christy.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
thanks
think
for the explanation.
I think that's the updated amount, because I think they pulled out like.
For the library. So
I'm
maybe
not
this
sure.
was after the library.
This is after the library. So yeah, and I'm not thinking of it. So as someone who works with funding all the time and is like tapping into all this funding to make miracles work for my families, I really see this funding as being something we can tap into in the event that we find out about an urgent need in the community. I think it's worth knowing what's available to us, what's in our tool belt. That way, if something were to arise, and we could say, like if I got a piggy bank at home that I know has like $200 in it, and one day I need gas or food, guess what? That piggy bank's going to get broken into. And so I just wanted to know more what the parameters are about it. If it's only for projects, could it be for, something else, another need in the community that might arise? For example, I recently found out that City of Boulder works with Bridge to Justice to represent folks going to court for eviction. And the Bridge to Justice will process CERS applications through the state for rental assistance, emergency rental assistance. But the county has a mediator that represents Boulder County Longmont residents, and that county person actually is not being funded at this moment. And so just little things like that as we continue to go on, knowing that like, hey, we have, and I don't know like the logistics of it, but for example, in that instance, if this person's working out of the goodness of their heart to represent our residents who are facing evictions, who don't have representative at eviction court, and the county's not providing that funding, of course, like we can work with the county to figure out like what's the holdup, but also like how might that fund kind of come into play in instances like that, or just any other type of emergency need in the community. So, So then, Eliberto, do you want to invite either McCoy or the city manager to come talk about that funding, the purposes, and how we act in the future?
Well, I think what might be a good idea, like where to start with this, like I think those are all really good ideas, Crystal, to kind of start to like weave in things. And we also want to kind of really know what the understand what the role of this board is and kind of what your what duties you're charged with. And so I think that maybe starting there as far as an orientation and like this is what this is what this board is intended to do. And then if things like those come up, like we have a mediation program that's not in our department, I think that then that's something that we would want to forward to community and neighborhood relations to say, hey, this came up in our advisory board, as opposed to kind of, and I know this is not the intent, but as opposed to kind of circumventing that and not including the people that are doing that programmatic stuff. We want to make sure that we connect it at that level so that it isn't the Human Services Advisory Board coming and saying, hey, we need money for eviction prevention and kind of laying out that path of where we want to go when it's really another division in the city that deals with that. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
The way that I'm describing it?
Yeah, and I know that as an advisory board, we only make recommendations, and I've heard that over and over again. So I'm very aware of that. And so just the purpose of like me bringing up that contingency fund is just knowing what that fund is essentially like,
yeah.
All I want to know is like, because I mean, if
What are the uses?
Board liaison took it before city council and advocated for their board and this need, I'm assuming that same system is present within our board. So
right, we do have a liaison. Mm-hmm.
So just throwing it out there, but do with it. I mean, if you guys are interested, and if not, like I'm not like the all governing of this board. So like your voices matter too. And if you think that's appropriate, great. And if not, then we don't have to either. It's up to you guys.
Right. Definitely providing that education about what the fund does. Definitely we can provide that information. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody.
Well, I just had a quick question. Are there any written guidelines about the uses of those funds that we could just share with the advisory board?
Yeah, I'm sure that we do have, I'm sure it's in policies, procedures, possibly even our code and how that's used. But yeah, I can check with our financial team. Yep.
Yeah, we can check and at least bring,
absolutely.
If we can't get we would love to get our liaison here. If we can't do that, we'll make sure that we put on the agenda just kind of an educational piece on council contingency.
Cool.
Absolutely.
It's fine. We can add it.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Do you have something to say?
I was gonna say, well, I thank you for bringing up Crystal, and I'm gonna still use in my first year of city employment card because that was the first time that I had heard about that. And I don't know what it can be used for. So I
can tell you that in my experience, for us, we council did give, to Christina's point, I think this was in 2019. They gave a comité some because they just didn't, I was talking about scores are important, and that year they didn't score that great, and so they didn't get a high percentage of the requests.
Wow.
And so council came in and said, well, we're gonna backfill that
just for El.
Yeah, because they came and talked to council.
Oh, got it. Good for
I mean,
them.
it happened to so many of our community partners this year. They pretty much got shorted because of increased request of funding. So yeah, great that we funded a whole bunch of new people, but a lot of hurt came with it for those that have been doing great work in our community for many years and continue to do great work.
That's quite the conundrum, and we're going to be coming to you with some thoughts for sure during our April retreat, probably in the March meeting as well, depending how much work Christina and I can get done between here and there. the reality, that's some hard stuff that we've been
Yeah.
dealing with for 2 years now. For those of you that are new to the board, this is not a new conversation. We've been having this conversation for a couple of years.
I can't recall, do we have a date for the April retreat?
No,
Not yet.
but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I am working on it.
Awesome. All right. Any other announcements or other business before we adjourn?
I move.
Yeah, I just wanna reiterate that point, that last point I made, because it's gonna be an even harder year and a pretty hard 4 years that we're gonna be seeing here. So I just wanna plant that seed that perhaps this year we could adapt something where we can do a freeze on new applications, and just continue with what we got.
Alejandro, you are reading the tea leaves, my friend. That's exactly kind of what Eliberto and I are working on, just a whole range of kind of different options that, yeah, we would need to have council make some policy direction on. But yeah, we're clear that, you know, the need is outpacing the resources and something needs to change. And so, yeah, we definitely see that.
All right. Well, I believe,
Second.
okay, we got Robert motioned to adjourn and then we have a second. All in favor?
All right, great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. You can stop the recording. You know.
Alejandro, did you have something else to say?
No, I was just in favor.
Oh, okay.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Did you just stop the recording?